Yeah, so I would say I will start. So, dear all, I'm Franziska Grafe from the Young Professional Network of our amazing Bundesvereinigung der Logistik. And today is a very special day for me because I could convince the wonderful company CHAINSTEP to collaborate with us. And now I have the opportunity to proudly present Mr. Bolten and give the handover to you. And he and the team will present the amazing topic, how blockchain technology is challenging and improving established processes. So have fun, ask a lot of questions, and yeah, enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Franziska. And it's a real pleasure for us to have the opportunity today to speak about some details we learned about how blockchain can be used in the transport logistics today. I'm especially happy because this is meanwhile the third webinar I can have with BVL. The first one is already 14 months ago. That was quite spectacular. It was the very first one of BVL. Meanwhile, more than 4,000 people will watch it. At that moment, it was, in that period, it was more to explain about blockchain in general. The second one was how to get started, and now meanwhile, after all the experience in the last years, we can really go into a couple of details and explain how blockchain can be used in practice with all the experience which is there from different projects. We CHAINSTEP started in May 2017 under the motto, we are bringing blockchain to the real economy. So we are not looking at the green approach, the green field approach, but we are really trying to make things happen in the real economy, to transfer business, not to make everything new. So if you, Timo, switch to the next chart, then we could go to the introduction. So it's quite smooth on my side, so this is our motto. So Timo will in a minute explain about the detailed agenda. What I will now do is to introduce the CHAINSTEP team, which is with you and here for you today. So please go back one chart. Then I will explain about the people. So my name is Frank Bolten. I'm founder and managing director of CHAINSTEP. Since the beginning, Majid is already with us for almost 2 years, very much focusing on the maritime industry, and he has a really strong record there as well. He's a blockchain architect today and working for really important companies in that field, and for us is really a very important member of our team. Timo, we are happy to have him in our team since almost half a year, since June, and he just finished his master's thesis at the KLU here in Hamburg, and his main topic was to look at the standards and the blockchain standards in the logistics industry, and that of course is a perfect fit for us in that field. So if you go to the next chart, there you see our start page or on the landing page of our website. Here you can see what different offerings we are having. We offer trainings, consultancy, and more we are working in projects. So we help companies to use blockchain for their business. On the next chart, you can see what content you have on our website. So you can have a lot of interesting information there, so please go there. You don't have to register, it's for free. So you have a couple of webinars, what you can look there, a couple of events from the time where events still easily were possible. We have articles there, and what is very often used, we are collecting since more than 4 years now, so I started this before I started CHAINSTEP. The major use cases where blockchain is used to improve business, to find now new solutions. So please go to the next chart. So the history of our company is that we started in May 2015. First steps were in blockchain consultancy. We made trainings and the like. And already 4 months later, we started with the first corporate projects. We started with the first state-funded project as well. We will come back to this in a minute. And meanwhile, this is our core business, that we really program, support companies to learn to program blockchain applications. And what is our target from the very beginning? And first steps we did do already is that we want to enter own assets. So we are working on projects where in the midterm we have a sustainable business. That's not so easy with the technology which takes out the middleman. Normally, digital economy has a strong middleman and it gathers all the power and the transaction fees. No, it is very different there. You also have to look for the right service approach to have your business model there. But we have, meanwhile, enough experience and I think very interesting plans to come to own assets, not instead of what we did before, in addition to what we did before. So that is all I wanted to explain about CHAINSTEP as a start. And now I'm happy to hand over to Timo, who will first explain about the agenda. And after this, you will learn about today's topic more in detail, mainly from Ajit. Thank you very much for listening, for having us. And I'm not sure whether we told this at the beginning. This session is recorded. You will receive a link later on, so you can have a look again. If you're interested, you can have the slides. We would share it by PDF version for internal use only, of course. And of course, in case you have more questions to the topic, we have a Q&A session at the end, or just drop us a line so we can answer it. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much, and I hand over to Timo.
Thank you, Frank, and also a warm welcome from me. So, as you know, I'm actually I'm a fresh logistics graduate, so it's a big pleasure to have this presentation with you guys and to actually show you, maybe with the mind of a logistics guy, what blockchain can do. And to start with it, I'm pretty sure not everyone is familiar with blockchain. I'll try to not go into technical details, but rather give you a small metaphor and explain that. So just imagine when we want to talk about blockchain, let's set it aside and just imagine you want to go to a soccer game. Imagine you could go to one and you take your bicycle there. You want to lock it. You want to actually make sure it's not stolen, it's safe. So when you take your bicycle to the stadium, you have either the option of locking it, that's the conventional way, making sure no one can take it away. But you could also rather have the more radical way and put it right next to the goalpost. So the idea behind it is that you would have 40,000 people watching it, so potential thieves wouldn't dare to steal your bike because there would be 40,000 witnesses. Okay, this is rather abstract. I actually wanted to talk about blockchain. So with that little metaphor in mind, if we talk about blockchain, or rather a public blockchain, there are only 3 key bullet points you actually have to keep in mind. And if you want to take something away from this presentation and want to tell your colleagues about blockchain, just tell them, well, a blockchain is an online distributed data storage. And that's basically all that is there. Okay, why did I talk about riding with the bicycle to the next stadium? Well, blockchain is not a normal data storage. There are some ideas behind it. So the one thing is, obviously you can lock your bicycle so it's not getting stolen. You could actually encrypt your data, so your data is unreachable or unreadable for people you don't want them to read it. And the same with the lock, also encryption. You need a key to uncrypt it again. So that would be the one side. But on the other side, what makes a blockchain, the chain aspect of it, is the second aspect of the metaphor. 40,000 people would watch your bicycle that would get stolen when you park it right next to the goalpost. With blockchain, it's the same. Like, as I said, it's online and distributed. So all of the participants have a copy of that transaction history and the data or the values that were transacted. So if you would try to manipulate it, you would have the whole network as a witness that something was manipulated, and so it makes it a really safe data storage. But is that all that is blockchain used for? No, because it's basically a programmable data storage. You just don't put your data on it, but the data can actually act and in this very simple way. Don't imagine you can play a video game on the blockchain. That's not possible, and that's way too resource intensive. But you can store data that is acting according to rules, and acting according to rules is the same as a contract. I really like to explain it with the most famous example for smart contracts, like a vending machine. When you store data or a contract on a vending on the blockchain, it only acts when you fulfill the requirements. Again, the data on a blockchain is safe and it's distributed. So this smart contract cannot be changed, and it will always act out what it's supposed to do when you meet the requirements. And the whole concept I just presented to you is for a public blockchain. But when we are later talking about the actual use cases, let me check the time. Yes, it's good. So when we are talking about actual use cases for private companies, there are some tweaks you have to do to the blockchain to fulfill the wishes or the requirements of a private company. So first of all, when you say you want to access, for example, the most famous public blockchain is Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure every one of you heard about it. I'm not going into detail about it, but it's a public blockchain idea. Every one of you can join just now. For a private company, you probably don't want every single person in the world to join your network for various reasons. So you have to permission or to grant access to the network. Well, what does that mean? Well, obviously for a public blockchain, the authority is decentralized. So you have no single participant that is more powerful than someone else. Well, to be honest, in a private or also called consortial or federated blockchain, but those are more or less equal, you give a little bit of the decentralization aspect away again. So obviously when you grant access, it's not fully decentralized, but the main idea behind it is still valid, that it's still creating trust and has the idea of a blockchain behind it. Also, what this means is for the visibility, on the public blockchain, everyone knows everything. So, for example, at Bitcoin, everyone knows which account or member holds what amount. That is their source of truth. In a private blockchain, you want to keep at least a part of your transaction confidential. So, so it's according to your standards that you're setting yourself for a private company. So with the idea of a blockchain in mind, let's go over to some actual use cases that were implemented in the last years and actually gaining traction. And I actually want to start from the right side because I have a little anecdote for TradeLens that's on the left side. So to show you some use cases, they're actually gaining traction. I thought PayPal is the most recent one. It announced that it's allowing Bitcoin to be used in their network in the near future. So it shows that like cryptocurrencies that we're not talking about today, but it's actually a part of the blockchain history, that they are gaining actual traction in the decentralized finance. When we are talking about logistical use cases, we rather talk about something like IBM Food Trust, where a private blockchain is enabling food traceability through the idea I just presented to create trust through a partial decentralization. But I would say the most successful implementation of blockchains in the logistical space is TradeLens. It's a joint venture between IBM and Maersk, and they're tackling sea freight processes and make them paperless. And why I have a little anecdote about it is that while I was a student, I worked for TESA in the inbound department for 2 years. And I basically, every week, I had documents like a bill of lading, a certificate of origin, an invoice or a packing list on my desk, and I had to deal with them every single week. When TradeLens is fully established, my job as a working student would have become redundant because there would be no more need for someone to actually handling the custom documents, because through the idea and the way blockchain is working creates trust, and you can actually get rid of signed papers and signed documents that show you the validation, but rather have the decentralized network doing all this much more efficient, faster, and of course, less expensive. We at CHAINSTEP obviously also work on, or are still working on, different projects. I just took some that are most relevant to the logistics or supply chain space. We just recently finished our project Hanseblock, where we created a platform for microservices, and I'm sure we will present the results just this month. Probably Frank can tell you the exact date. Our current project that is still developed is DB-Chain. Quite interesting because I really like the idea of it to take a blockchain and connect the manufacturer and the recycler together to enable sustainable products. So nowadays, the manufacturer is producing a product, but he's not paying attention to what the product is doing after the end of the life cycle. Obviously, the material has to be recycled. But through blockchain, those two players can be connected, and the manufacturer, through a smart contract, for example, can benefit from the recyclability of his newly developed products. And I'm really looking forward to the results from that project. And to just give you an idea where it can also be used is to, we did a pilot project with Kravak to create a so-called claim chain where claim management can be handled with. So those are just some examples. But before I go over to SCOR, I just found the idea behind blockchain is not to revolutionize, but to improve. And I just show you how this can be done with SCOR. So for the ones of you who are not familiar with SCOR, SCOR stands obviously for Supply Chain Operations Reference Model. It's around for roughly 24 years, and it was created by subsidiaries of PricewaterhouseCoopers and Gartner. What it basically is a diagnostic tool for supply chains. So it's actually endorsed by APIX. APIX is a non-profit organization located in the United States, where it was developed. And how are we coming up with SCOR? Through our partner and good friend Michael Gina, who's an associate member and trainer for SCOR. And the idea is to actually give SCOR, this rather old model, some new ways to improve supply chains. Even though all the aspects are still valid, we think that it can be further developed with digitalization. Just to give you a quick overview, pretty much every big company with a supply chain can and potentially did already use SCOR to make their supply chain more efficient. So I think this is the most boring slide I'll present to you today, because what is SCOR actually achieving? Well, the things you can tweak in the blockchain to make it better, to make it more efficient, is the reliability, responsiveness, the agility. You can decrease the cost and increase the assets efficiency. So I'm pretty sure all of you are already bored by this 5 seconds showing of that slide. So let's come to a small example of how SCOR is working and what this not revolutionizing but improving idea behind blockchain can be. So how is SCOR working? Well, you have your business activities from plan over source, make, deliver, and return. And you have obviously all your processes that are enabling those processes. So what SCOR actually is, or what it's doing, is go on a deeper and even deeper, more detailed level, and actually give advice to what can be done. So let's zoom out and go in one step deeper, and let's take the plan process. So what can be planned in a supply chain? Well, actually the supply chain itself. Also can be planned the source, make, deliver, and return processes. Let's keep it simple and focus on the planning of the supply chain itself. So if we go one level deeper, you can identify new business activities that you actually want to improve. Until now, nothing new for most of you, probably. So what can you actually do to improve a supply chain? Well, you can make the forecast accuracy much more valid. You can aggregate the cycle time through a supply chain. You can optimize the inventory, and you have so many more approaches you can actually do. So let's focus on the forecast accuracy. And how would it look like if you take blockchain and to improve it? So you have your forecast accuracy. Well, you actually can analyze your collected data. Well, this is not blockchain. I just wanted to give you something most of you will probably be familiar with, because when I started my studies a couple of years ago, big data analytics was the big topic to improve efficiency for logistical processes. And I'm pretty sure all of you know someone who's working in the data science field or you even have a whole department dedicated to it. But what I really like about blockchain is that it's enabling new improvements. So what I also already shared to you is that through smart contracts, you can allow only, for example, mutually accepted participants to interact with you. So you don't have to manually decide, okay, who's interacting with us and who not. You can pre-set a contract that is, well, I always call it contract. You can call it whatever you want. It's just data that it's stored and that it's doing what you tell it to do. So when you say, okay, I only want members who were reliable in the past or who fulfilled those safety requirements, then it's automatically done and you don't have to worry or to manually manage it. So reducing complexity, which ultimately results in better forecast accuracy if you set up your prerequisites correctly. Well, you can also start to integrate X or N tier supply chain members, because when you don't have to manually manage them, you don't care about how many N tier suppliers your customers or your supply chain members have. And the most interesting idea that blockchain can actually do, it's just my personal point of view, is to reward members for reliable data. And I think this is something that is really powerful, because once you set your members of a supply chain, you get them to the mindset that only reliable data will give them a reward. The forecast accuracy will be improved in a blink of an eye. At least that's what I'm expecting when this will be implemented. And obviously, there are so many more approaches. And again, blockchain isn't always revolutionizing everything. It's just a new and exciting way to improve existing processes, and more approaches, different technologies based on blockchain or not, it can be a part of it. So that's from my side. If you're interested about that, what we just told you and we just showed you, please contact us. We're happy to get in contact with you if you think that's suitable for you or your company. That's cool. But now I hand over to Majid. And Majid, you will be the host now? Yes, perfect. I see that it worked.
Thank you very much. I'm going to continue the discussion for maritime blockchain. Let's see what you have here. SCOR as a process reference model, as explained by Timo, could be applied as long as a governing body could coordinate processes. We have lots of interesting success stories of application of SCOR and also the other reference models. But could we have such a governing body at global scale? It's a bit tricky. You know, on the global scale, as you can see in this picture, I borrowed this picture from TradeWinds. You can see many parties are working together. And there are many best practices and many efforts that all of them have tried to make this communication and process coordination better. But all of them, including process simplification, document harmonization, and data standardization, or even those that are related to tariff elimination or non-tariff barriers removal, have not provided enough tools for global level process coordination. And even, you know, political giant structures, same as World Trade Organization, they're facing new challenges. We still are looking for a technology that give us a strong foundation for complex coordination. So reference models, same as a SCOR, have capacity, but technology must enable this capacity on global level. And it's hard because according to Conway's law, organizations which design systems are constrained to produce design which are copies of the communication structures of their organizations. So on global community, we have different players, and any of them, when they are developing a system and they are intending to communicate through these systems together, they will receive some influence from their communication structure. So we need a transformative technology that avoid unnecessary change management and adapt quickly to existing communication structure and logic, and also give us a good and strong foundation for improvement of communications and process coordination. It has never been possible on global scale until now, and the blockchain is giving us actually this capacity. So I'm going to give you the latest findings of how blockchain could be applied. There are many use cases. If you go please to the website of CHAINSTEP, you can find more than 800 use cases in different domains, including supply chain and maritime blockchain. But I'm selecting some of them to give you a pattern-oriented approach, telling what's happened in the field. The first type of patterns that we can see is message hub. I call it message hub because blockchain as a platform has some responsibilities, same as validation, same as authentication, authorization, and also it is transferring something, same as transfer of possession. So blockchain platform receives the event flow and even the document flow, and it passes that to another receiving party. It doesn't keep anything as a storage inside the platform. So it is a secure, trusted router. And a good example of that is WaveBL and T-mining. These are the solutions. The first one, WaveBL, is based on Litecoin blockchain, and it is working with electronic bill of lading. And the second one is working on release order, container release order, and it is based on Hyperledger Borrow. If you see these type of solutions, they are orchestrating process of release or exchange of BL and transfer of possession between different parties, but they don't keep information on the platform. Information is kept on founding member nodes or participant member nodes. And this node is a quite complex system interface which communicates with business operating system of the party, and any information, whether it is ingoing information or outgoing information, will go through this node to the blockchain platform and will be exchanged to the other parties. So this is the first type or pattern of blockchain utilization in maritime industry. I'm going to introduce the second one. Second one is still interesting. This has the all capacity and features of the first one. Plus, it brings the data from the node to the platform. So the node now has a stronger role. And as you can see, the node can also keep the data, and beyond the validation or authentication and authorization and transfer of something, same as transfer of possession, it is doing the data anonymization, and it is keeping the data. So this type of blockchain or this type of patterns that we call them message hub and data platform are forming the next type of digital economy. And we don't know about the monetization strategy in the future, but because of the capacity of the blockchain, we are observing a strong solution and solution providers. A good example of that is TradeLens, used Hyperledger Fabric, and it is exchanging all type of information flow and all type of business documents. So whether it is an event or whether it is a business document, you can securely exchange this information through TradeLens to the other network members. This is the second type. The last type is also very interesting. And as you can see, the last type has the features of the previous one, but data ownership now is just for founding members. It is not about data anonymization, and it is not about transferring the ownership of the data to the platform. It is about keeping the data in an encrypted way, and only founding members will have the key to decrypt the information and read the information, or give the possibility of decryption to another receiving party. So as you can see, a very good example of this type of solutions is GSPN, or Global Shipping Business Network. And it is also using Hyperledger Fabric, and it is also supporting almost all of the business documents and events information. So to compare them very quickly, before going to talk about pros and cons of them, I'm just showing you very rapidly the pictures. First one, as you recall, keeps no data on platform. It is just routing in a very secure way, and it is tokenizing digital assets. It could be business documents. If anyone keeping the data, it keeps on their own node. The second type, as you observed, make a strong and giant data pool. And this data pool keeps everything. And to protect the business confidentiality and to align with different personal data protection regulation, they're doing strong data anonymization. And the last one, as you observed, it keeps the data, but the data is fully encrypted. And the only one who is capable to decrypt the data or give the possibility of decryption is the owner of the data. So these are three types of solutions with examples. But let's talk about pros and cons of any of these typology. The first one, who are using blockchain as a strong enabler for reliable message router, for secure message router, for something which is quite strong for validation, time stamping, and controlling the quality of messages. The first one, as pros, you can see they have guaranteed delivery mechanism. As an cons, you can see the availability is a responsibility of node, because the platform does not have the information itself. The node must be up and running. So if any cybersecurity attack, make any risk for availability, then this is the responsibility of node. Otherwise, the whole network will be affected because of that availability attack. The second type keeps the data. So even if any availability attack happens, still the platform can continue to provide the information to the parties according to the authorization rule, or what we call access matrix, which is telling who is authorized to read what type of business document or information or event. In this type of patterns, the process guaranteed delivery and the data aggregator, because the platform has the capacity of using the data. Platform owns the data. So if you use artificial intelligence, you can make prediction model, and you can predict the behavior of different players in the network, whether they are shipper, they are freight forwarder, ocean carrier, port operator, customs. You can be the only source that will tell how long it will take to have a successful declaration in a specific jurisdiction, because every information is gathered there. But the cons is that data has its own geopolitics now, and it is not easy. We have different concerns about different type of data, and data localization and keeping data on cloud infrastructure now is the subject of regulation in different jurisdictions. And also corporate data protection is a risk and is a subject for discussion, because corporate is giving the data to the platform. There is no encryption on the data. Yes, if this is some sort of encryption, this is not about controlling the ownership. It is about the best practices that cloud service providers must apply. So the corporate data protection is as good as the data anonymization is good. If the data anonymization is not necessarily good, then corporate data protection is not sufficient. And personal data protection in the same way has the same difficulty, and also it could be a very disruptive platform and technology, because no one knows what type of advantages or features could come out after doing any kind of artificial intelligence or data analytics or any type of new technology processing on this data. And the last one, as you can see, the process is granted delivery and inter-organizational process optimizer or optimization, basically because the data belongs to the corporate, and corporate can do any type of business process optimization using the data of the community. But the cons still is the geopolitical data localization. So these are a quick comparison of these three type of patterns that we are observing in maritime blockchain. Let's talk about another interesting topic, and this is about business value proposition. As you can see, we are exchanging something. It is information flow or document flow or event flow or a concept, same as ownership. And this is possible because of the capacity of the blockchain. Till now, we could recognize that there are 4 different categories of business use cases and value propositions are actively inside the market. The first, as I explained, is document and information workflow management, and you know the examples. The second type is financial process. Payment or receivables also could be successfully integrated to the supply chain platform. So this is not just only about exchanging of the business document, it is also about the exchanging the money. Here, other business reference models that are covering the payment could be interesting, same as buy, ship, pay model. But we have this type of solutions actively in the market, same as Marco Polo Finance. And this is very interesting that we can do the payment very quicker, cheaper, more efficient, and with high level of transparency and visibility in the cross-border trade at a global level with blockchain now. The third one is device connectivity and traceability. For example, for medicine drug tracking, we have solution which is working on this context, and anything about the medicine drug tracking is available through this solution. Also, Timo gave a good example for Food Trust, which is providing the same services for food. And the last one is rapid declaration and rapid claim processing. As you can see, for example, custom clearance. I gave you an example for South Korea using a very interesting blockchain solution for customs declaration. And this means that when the cargo owner declared the cargo to the customs, anything which could be the subject of inspection could be easily endorsed by the blockchain data and the network of the trusted parties who are involved inside the blockchain network. So if, for example, anything is consistent, then there is no for any type of inspection, and it could increase the whole process speed dramatically in different aspects and in different customs regimes. So value proposition is interesting. We are expecting to see more value proposition and more strong use cases. This is just the beginning, but these 4 types of value propositions are very observable and available in the market at this time. The question is that, is blockchain a transformative technology? Could we expect that this transform everything? We believe yes, because it has a very strong data quality, and this data quality can feed the artificial intelligence solutions. And also service bundling now is quite possible. The smart contract capacity makes it easily possible that we combine different services and bundle different packages. So from financial to transportation to trade, everything could be now integrated easily. And also business model innovation is possible because higher level of trust now is available in the network, and the digital assets that we are exchanging in the network are quite reliable assets, and they can be the underlying asset of any other products, same as financial products. So this technology has a very good capacity for transformation, but it depends on the value proposition and business model innovation practices. Also, I like to address some challenges as we are observing in the market. The first strong challenge that we are observing is data protection. Data protection now is the subject of regulation in many important economies. For example, in European Union, GDPR is talking about protection of personal information, but supply chain is full of personal information. For example, a trucker is coming to take a container, and you cannot expect, without authentication and controlling the identity, we can, release the container. So self-sovereign identity and decentralized identity is another use case of blockchain for identity control, but still it is dealing with personal information, and we have a long way to provide a very good solution that aligns with all of the regulations. We have the same regulation, for example, in US Cloud Act and China cybersecurity law. And even China cybersecurity law is more strong and more restrictive comparing to the other two. So data protection now is somehow a challenge because the concept is about decentralization. The concept is about, giving the power to different parties without having a central authority. And when we are exchanging this information to different locations of the world, it has a potential to conflict with these emerging regulations. Second challenge is cryptography after the quantum computers commercialization, because almost everything that we are using now is vulnerable in front of quantum computers. I'm talking about basically digital signature, hashing, and also encryption algorithms. NIST as a standardization body is at the last round of a standardization of the post-quantum cryptography, and we are expecting that they are giving the good new algorithms for cryptography, and this will bring a new generation of blockchains, and also this will bring a new generation of network security protocols and application security, especially in decentralized solutions. And also, I like to address the third challenge. The third challenge is managing federation of networks. This is not easy to make the governance framework at a global level. and having a robust methodology for making governance on digital platform with respect of different regulations is quite challenging, and it is a growing trend. And the last one is ease of use. You know, from modeling the concept, process modeling and business modeling, to use case realization and commercialization and monetization, everything that you think about that, when it comes to blockchain, could be a bit complex. And to have good technology acceptance, we have to make it super easy. We have to make it super useful. And this is another challenge that the industry is working on, that very hard to make it easy, make it available. Now you can see, for example, different cloud providers are making it possible that you have decentralized identity with clicks within few minutes. So this is a trend and also a challenge, and the industry is trying to solve this challenge by providing an easier and more useful blockchain platform. So we are at the end of this discussion. Thank you for your attention. Francisco, please take control and let's have the question and discussions. Thank you.
Perhaps just very briefly, if there's any question concerning SCOR, you saw Michael Ginap on one chart, and Michael is attending. I know he needs to step out quite quickly. He told me close to 5. So if there's hi Michael, if there is any question to him, perhaps we put it first. If you first have to digest all the content, which is not lightweighted, as we know, fully understandable. Yeah, but I just wanted to introduce Michael as well.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
You're welcome. Michael couldn't attend from the very beginning, so he knows about the content. He didn't see the final chart, so but at least he knows what had been presented in general.
And maybe just a statement before you further discuss, and I thank you for your understanding. I really have to drop out in a couple of seconds actually. I'd like to express my enthusiasm about the work that has been done, Frank, by your team, Majid and Timo, and in particular, I'm really impressed by what you've done with blockchain using SCOR. And so I've been dealing with the SCOR model since more than 20 years, I'm afraid. And to bridge it to the last statement that Majid made, as we all know, a lot of the blockchain projects spend a majority of the time on the process configurations between partners along the chain. And that is definitely where we know the benefits of SCOR really materialize in terms of both factors too, actually. One, acceleration of the process alignment, and secondly, sustainability of what you actually use, because it's a de facto standard of processes, metrics, practices, and people skills. And yeah, I hope that makes sense to you. If there are further questions, please contact me. I'm happy to help. A pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. So, Franziska, it does not look like there are so many questions at the moment. Might be really, we knew it as pretty heavy content, hopefully very understandable. But as said at the beginning, we are there if there are any further questions. Perhaps from my side, one last statement. I'm really happy that the BVL has this young professional group with so active people and enthusiastic people like you, Franziska. I happened to meet you already when you finalized your thesis. I was one of the interview partners there, and yeah, I learned about this enthusiasm, and I'm really happy and proud that this kind of talents are grouped there in the young professionals, and yeah, start to to develop the future, because that has to be done by the younger people and not by the elder people.
That's right. Thank you so much for your words, Frank, and thank you so much for your support today. It was so tremendous, and I hope we will, have a lot of meetings in the future, maybe. And I would like to write a blog post, if it's possible, on our BVL blog, and I would like to keep you informed via mail, for the further steps.
Great. And thanks to Majid and Timo as well. You did a fabulous job. I learned something. So, okay. Shall we close then, Franziska? Yeah, I think so. No?
Kirsten, I think so. We can close, right?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very
I think
much.
there's a question.
I have a question. I've been waiting actually because I was not sure if you may ask right away. So, Majid, this one's for you. You've been talking about decryption and encryption. So I've been wondering about this for quite a long time, actually. Can everybody in a channel, for example, in a fabric network, read what is transacted? Or can you actually encrypt a transaction within a channel, like to make it only accessible for two parties in a channel with more than 2 members?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you for raising this question. In Hyperledger Fabric, the concept of channel could be implemented in 2 ways. One way is multilateral channel, and the second one is bilateral channel. For example, TradeLens concept is multilateral channel. So if carrier and port operator and shippers are working together in a route, all of them are working together inside a channel. But the ability of reading the data is quite manageable by the authorization mechanism, or what we call it access control matrix. Basically, because no one putting the raw data on the on-chain side of the solution. The data will be kept on the off-chain side in different type of storages. For example, if this is structured data, it is in SQL database. If this is business documents, it is in non-SQL database. And the hash of this data for validation purpose is on-chain. So channel as a small or baby blockchain is sharing this type of information, so they can take advantage of having this hash for validation of the data, and they cannot read it. In the stronger design, which is bilateral channel, also this is not possible that different people could have the hash of this on-chain data, and only 2 parties that they are dealing together, they can have this channel or small blockchain. So I want to tell, encryption and decryption is happening on the business documents and information, and most of the time, the best practice is to keep this information on off-chain side. And what we are keeping on-chain could be shared according to the design pattern of multilateral or bilateral channel, and this is limited to validation using hash of the data. I hope I address your question.
Yeah, so if I got this right, you basically are able to share the hash value to certain parties, but not to everybody, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I also got a question. I was waiting as well. I think Timo Schneider, you were talking about the rewarding system. How can I imagine the rewarding system on blockchain?
Well, also a good question. You can actually define it or think about it for every purpose or for every situation in a new way. So there's not necessarily a pre-given reward you have to give someone. If you want to solely take it or solely leave it on the blockchain. You could actually reward someone with cryptocurrencies. As I said, PayPal is already allowing Bitcoin to be used soon on their network, so it can be currencies, and either cryptocurrencies or fiat, and the normal euro or dollar. You can grant anything you want to actually reward your supply chain members. I mean, in the economic sense, it's most of the time it would be some sense of remuneration, like currencies or just money, but you can also give them rewards. Let's say if your data was reliable in the past, we allow for you to have 1 or 2 unreliable data, or if it's solely about logistics, you can say, okay, in the past all of your data was reliable, now some of your trucks were delayed, and then you say, oh, okay, we see you brought so much reliable data to us, it's okay that some of your logistical processes weren't correct this time. Yes, I think that's up to the company who's wanting to reward their supply chain members.
Okay.
I hope that.
Also, I'd like to continue something else and add another point about rewarding and incentive mechanism. Blockchain is keeping very quality data, because when we are doing finality, all the network or relevant parts of the network are endorsing the data. So if we are keeping the data there, it means that this data is approved and validated by all relevant parties. Now, this could be a very good source for gamification and monetization. So if someone define engagement economy and define incentives, then on the business layer, they have access to a very precious data layer that is approved data and showing the interaction and the behavior of the parties for exchanging things. And this is a very interesting thing, because before blockchain, we could have data, but data cleansing was a very necessary part of doing anything, because the data could be wrong or could be, with low quality. Now, with blockchain, data cleansing is almost unnecessary, because when something is inside the blockchain network, it means that it has the approval of the parties. And from that perspective, defining engagement economy and defining monetization and gamification strategy on the application is possible, and we will see it in near future. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Are there further questions?
So maybe a question about consensus. I've been wondering, how could you achieve a consensus between data if you're using the third model you've been trying to explain to us, Majid? Like, what types of consensus mechanism would you use?
Yeah, very, very good question. The main point is that what we are expecting from consensus. In the third type, which the data belongs to the data provider, and it is under the control of the data provider, we are using the blockchain for validation. And any type of message exchange could be validated using the blockchain data. So in this type of solutions, normal consensus mechanisms, same as proof of work or POS or different things, are not easily observable at the first step. But if you like, for example, now implement a sanction screening, for example, a KYC procedure, and you need, for example, something same as proof of location, then the consensus can easily give you a very good and clear mechanism to show that this process of information and cargo flow is fully compliant with the regulation. So as a summary, we don't have POW or POS as a first step, but when we have just validation and verification, but as soon as we have the community and the platform starting to working, we can define new consensus mechanisms, same as proof of location, as I mentioned, to implement different new things. I hope I answered your question.
Great, thank you.
No further questions? I think if there are any questions left, we can also answer them in the after the meeting per email. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. I think we can quit the meeting, and I hope you have all a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish you a nice evening too.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
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 Thanks, bye.